Hey, woo, 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 woo. What's up, Fortnite streamers? Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everybody's doing amazingly. You have tuned in to the most significant, the most lit, the most popular Fortnite stream on YouTube. You will not believe the amount of Fortnite we are going to be playing tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to get all the weapons. We're going to get all the coins. We're going to get all of the stuff. And basically that's going to be it, man. That's, it's going to be it. We're going to get all this stuff. We're going to win all the wins. Okay? All right, so get ready for some Fortnite dances, because in the middle of the show we're going to have an intermission with a Fortnite dance competition. Okay? So, get that ready, get that ready too, so that you are prepared for the competition. All right? Cool. All right, everybody looks in the comments to be ready for the Fortnite competition. I'm going to be this is our bi-weekly Fortnite Q&A live stream, so I'm going to be taking all of your Fortnite questions that come in the form of super chats and just kind of running through those. And yeah, guys, you're the best. All right, let's kick it off. Skull Candy TV, is this a formal YouTube channel? Do you guys do reviews or something? It seems like kind of a brand name. What is my favorite Muse album? Mine is Absolution. I think I prefer Origin of Symmetry a little bit more. However, I am of the opinion that the Resistance is a little underrated. Sure, it's overblown, but I think what the band was doing on that record was, in a way, kind of fun. Sort of overblown like the Black Parade, but in a totally different way. But that's me. Opinion on my opinions. Ariel Pink equals the best pop artist of the 2000s, and godfather of lo-fi pop. Aesop Rock is on Mount Rushmore of underground rap. Rings captures the feelings of discouraged artists. I guess who else would be on the Mount Rushmore of underground rap? Aesop Rock. You'd have to have MF Doom on there. So Doom, Aesop Rock. Who else are you going to have on there? You're going to have Cool Keith on there. Yeah, I guess it matters who else is on there. And Ariel Pink is most certainly one of the best underground pop artists out there. But, is he like a formal mainstream pop artist? Not necessarily, I mean, look at our girl, Carly Rae Jepsen, Don't forget about her. My 2018 list is KSG, Parquet Courts, Idols. Thoughts? I mean, that's a cool top three. My top three might look something like that. I guess we're going to find out pretty soon. It's just around the corner, but I think it's a good top three. I really recommend you listen to Lady Lady by Masigo. Also, did you ever go back and listen to Take Care for Me? I still think it's a really good album. I think that Take Care has, its moments and everything. But honestly, I have not gone back and listened to it. And I've been really swamped this week, too, just like I was last week. And I haven't gotten a chance to get through all the suggestions from the last live stream and everything. So there is that to take into account. So I apologize for that. So if anybody's trying to follow up on something they might have asked me to check out last week or the week before, don't even bother, because I just have not. What numerical rating would you rate Pink Floyd's The Wall and Final Cut, respectively? I don't know about the Final Cut because I haven't listened to it in a long time, like probably not since college, because I didn't like it that much. I don't know what I would rate it today. But The Wall that I've listened to pretty recently, I would give at least a 9, at the very least. Like, it's a fantastic record, one of the best concept albums of all time, which, I mean, in and of itself probably makes it a 10, but I do prefer Animals a little bit more. So I mean, at least a 9. Have you listened to the I don't even know who that artist is, so I cannot really solid Screamo Scrams, similar to Page 99 and Orchid. Okay, that's interesting. Favorite album of the year so far? Okay, I mean, I'm into some Scrams. I mean, hopefully they kind of put their own twist on it. I mean, I I think you're going to have to do a little bit more than just sound like Page 99, though Page 99 is very good. What do I think, Anthony, do you think it is possible for one 10 out of 10 album to be significantly better than another? For example, is Talking Heads' Remain in the Light significantly better than Kids See Ghosts? I mean, I can certainly prefer one 10 out of 10 album to another, I suppose. However, to me, a 10 out of 10 is like a threshold of enjoyment. You know, like this is peak enjoyment that I'm having here with this artist, with this album. And listen, at the end of the day, it's all based on subjectivity and emotions and feelings about the record itself. You know, averaged out, of course, due in part to whether or not I think the whole track list is great, track for track for track for track for track. So I can definitely prefer one over the other, but I think if a 10 out of 10 is, I don't know, not on par with another 10 out of 10, then I feel like you've kind of scored it improperly. You know what I mean? Like 10 out of 10 should at least be in the same league. You know, for something to be significantly better than another, to me says it's not in the same league. Favorite Mountain Goats album? Probably All Hail West Texas or Sunset Tree. One of those. Those used to be not two of my favorite Mountain Goats records, but over the years, I've just kind of just settled on those two, even though they're two of the most popular ones. That and Tallahassee. I used to sort of like own most of John's albums, and you know, I guess I had more specific tastes in his discography, but over the years, I've just been like, yeah, you know what? These are the best records. What's my favorite metal guitar riff of all time and favorite death metal album? Ow! Favorite metal guitar riff of all time? I don't know, but at least one of them has to be on like Vector's Black Future. There's so many great ones. There's so many great ones on Vector's Black Future. Also, quite a few amazing ones off of Metallica's Master of Puppets. Some really good ones on Black Sabbath, Master of Reality. Some really classic ones on there. Sorry, I can't think of one just off the top of my head. But as far as like a favorite death metal band, I mean, not a death metal band, but a death metal album. I don't know, probably one of the first couple of Death records or something, just off the top of my head. But yeah, again, ow! Thank you, Duran Sunrise. And ow, ow, ow! On GP, more like on PP. Funny. It's your boy Yalethany Jean Jacket Tano here. This is the largest donation I've ever made, and I have a few questions. NOTM versus Jenny Death. I like Jenny Death. Year of the Snitch versus Ex-Military. I think I like Ex-Military. Favorite clipping song? Probably either Loud or that really ingenious one where they sample the alarm clock, or Story 2. And what's your opinion on the 2018 C418 ambient album Excursion? I don't think I've heard that album yet, so I can't comment. I did hear one of his latest LPs that was kind of a mix of a bunch of different stuff, house and ambient and a lot of things, but I haven't heard that. What do I think of Marc Ribelet? Or is it Ribelet? Because it sounds French. He's cool. He's a fun YouTuber. He produces some fun beats. You know, all the respect in the world to him. Thoughts on the new High on Fire album? That is coming tomorrow. The review is shot and recorded. It's uploaded. It's just dropping tomorrow. Did you like Rammstein? Hell yes! I loved Rammstein. I actually saw them back in the day with Slipknot and System of a Down and American Head Charge. I still own Senshut and Mutter. Both are very good industrial metal records. And yeah, they're fucking awesome. I've never seen one of their album in your vinyl update. That's because I have their stuff on CD. Because I bought their shit on CD back in the day. So I listened to them in high school when CDs were popular. So I've never owned their stuff on vinyl. I didn't even know they had vinyl. I've never seen a Rammstein album on vinyl, though I'm sure they exist, but I've never even seen one. So, Brian Dunn, ow! I'm a few years older than you, so I was obsessed with Alanis Morissette when I was a teen. Do you think she had any influence in today, or was her popularity a fluke? What genre would you put her in? Wait, hold on one second. I don't want to miss this one. Hey, Anthony, have an amazing day. Have you heard of the band Elbow? I have, but I'm not really big on the Mercury Prize winners. Yeah, they just really kind of underwhelm me personally. I'm not big on Elbow, really. Ever checked out Secret Electro Dream Pop with her husband, Mute Math drummer? I have not, but I'm just going to have to take that recommendation from you and catch up on it. Melon, your lack of a review for the Kurt Vile's Bottle It Up is alarming. I can only spam your DMs so many hundreds of times a day. Will there be a review? I'm not sure yet. It's a very long and dense album, and I'm kind of processing a lot of records right now, trying to get through the new Me Without You at the moment so I can review that. Hey, I saw you mention Betshuka's Liturgia on your list of albums that you could have reviewed. I think it's a great record. I'm curious what you would score it out of 10. Probably at least a 7. You know, I do think some of the chanted vocals after a while do get a little old or whatever, but still, I think it's a pretty creative record. Maybe a little gimmicky with the extra vocals and everything, but still a very creative record. Sorry about that pause. Brian. Yeah, I remember very, very vividly the era of Atlantis Morissette, of Jewel, of Melissa Etheridge, all the Lilith Fair stuff, the I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother, Sheryl Crow as well. I would lump a lot of those songwriters really just into an overall trend in very angsty, very, I guess, female empowered and very emotional singer-songwriters that were huge in the 90s. I mean, it was just like a big blow up, you know? I would just say that she made alternative rock and singer-songwriter music for the most part. And honestly, looking back on that era, it wasn't a bad era. There were a lot of good singles and artists that came out of that era. It's just unfortunate that it was really a trend and it just kind of came out with the tide and got replaced with other stuff. But it was a cool time. It was a cool little like mini trend within rock music and, you know, singer-songwriter music at the time. My mom was huge on a lot of those artists, honestly. Like she had the Atlantis CD, she had the Jewel CD, she had the Sheryl Crow CD, she had the Melissa Etheridge CD, and, you know, or tape rather. Fuck, it was fucking tapes at the time. I'm fucking having a brain fart here. Because it wasn't CDs, it was tapes. Because I had tapes. I was a little kid with tapes. So, yeah, it was a cool time during the 90s. Would I ever consider doing a top however many albums of the decade once? Yes, I do. I am planning on doing that. I will do that. It's going to be a top 100 albums of the decade. Also, top dead or alive hip-hop artists. Much love. I would definitely say in my top 10 dead or alive, I would have to put Biggie, Andre, Kendrick, Kanye, KRS-One, probably put Rakim, Chuck D would be in there too. I mean, those are just a few. That would most definitely be in my top 10 dead or alive. Boop-a-doop-a-doop. I really like the new Kurt Vile album. Have I listened to it yet? I have listened to it a little bit, but it is a very dense record, and I have not made it through the album all the way yet in terms of being able to hear it enough times to review it. I'm not sure when it'll be up yet. I haven't even started writing it. Album of the year. I'm glad you're digging it, but I do plan on touching down on it. I'm just not exactly sure when. Hopefully before the month is out, because it is a dense record. Melon, I haven't been able to catch a stream until now. I love you, man. Oh, that was a nice comment. And have you heard Tom Morello's Atlas Underground yet? I have not, but honestly, I'm not really excited to listen to it. I'm kind of dreading it because every Rage Against the Machine solo project so far has been trashed to some degree. And there are a lot of other records just kind of on my plate at the moment, so it hasn't really been a priority for me to try out the Tom Morello album because I'm not anticipating for it to be good. Huge fan of your channel. My question is, why didn't you talk about the song Can't Say? Yeah, you know, honestly, I didn't really think that my comments on the song were all that profound or interesting. And if some of my comments on a track, I guess, don't really bring that much to the review. Usually my comments on that song, if it's not that positive or negative of a comment, if it doesn't add to the overall critique of the review, I typically just cut it out of the review because I don't really feel like I need to put any more dead air in there than I need to. I mean, the reviews already, once I cut them down to that length and, pull out all the stuff I don't need to say necessarily, end up 7, 8, 10 minutes. So, no reason to make the reviews more long-winded than they already are. That Jeffrey P. comment says, I missed it. Hey, Melon, haven't been able to catch a stream until now. Love you, man. Hope all is well. I'm about to go watch JPEG Mafia perform the new Open Mic Eagle comes out tonight. That's exciting. And yes, I am looking forward to the new Open Mic Eagle. So many records on my friggin' plate. It's insane. It's really more than there used to be. And, again, that's why things like Kurt Weill kind of fall to the wayside a little bit, because he's really not one of my favorite singer-songwriters. A few of the singles from the new album underwhelmed me a little bit. And, there were other records that to me this week were a bit more pressing. So, and those are the ones that I ended up covering. So, let's see. Hey, Melon, huge fan of your channel. My question is, I did that one. Hey, man, are you bringing back That Is the Plan Pussy? No, because YouTube demonetized it. I'm not going to be able to make any money off of it because YouTube has decided that my channel is not worth advertising on. And I don't just dick around on the internet for free. That's not how it works. Sorry, boys. Anthony, what is your worst first-time experience that would have gone better? That you thought would have gone better? Oh, geez. I mean, I took a television journalism class and I had such a horrible time trying to present on camera that I swore that I would never touch a camera again for the rest of my life. You can see how that panned out. So that's a pretty horrible first-time experience. Duran Sunrise. Ow! Do I think folk music has better songwriting but weaker, samey instrumentation? Also, have you heard of the underground hip-hop duo A1 and Phonics? Oh, and favorite new wave band, mine's Duran Duran. Mine is New Order. Can't say anything about the A1 and Phonics, but I think the folk thing depends on the artist. What was that great folk album I reviewed last year? What is it? Richard something? Cannot remember the guy's fucking name. Jesus Christ, off the top of my head. But the instrumentation on that record is great, despite the fact that it's mostly just vocals and guitar. I mean, you could easily have a singer-songwriter record with electric guitars and drums and have it be really samey. So, Lion King 2 Simba's Pride soundtrack was slightly better than... No, it was not. No, it was not. No, it was not. I don't even agree with that. Hard disagree. Thank you for the $10. Original Lion King soundtrack is fucking classic and amazing. Elton John forever. First off, want to make sure Wolfpack is on your radar. They are. Also, have I heard of Hippocampus? I have. Although I think their new album is kind of boring. So, they came out with a new album, and the fact that there's yet to be a review hurts my poor heart. I'm sorry for your poor heart. I just find them really bland. I find them really boring. I think they bring absolutely nothing to pop music. The songwriting, I think, is so-so. The production is okay. The instrumentation is a little angular and quirky sometimes, but really not enough to make up for the lack of interesting material on any other front on the record. I just really haven't had any reason to comment on it because I think the record is really so average that it elicits no words from my mouth. Do I think Bob Dylan was the first rapper? No. I mean, there were artists during the period of rock and roll and rhythm and blues who were essentially kind of like talking over the beat or the instrumental. So I think Bob Dylan's far from the first rapper if we're going to take an older piece of music and say, hey, he's kind of talking on tempo on the beat. Yeah, there are other artists who did it before. Thoughts on super furry animals? Thoughts on the Streets? Love you. Streets, great. I mean, Mike is a great hip-hop artist. Mike is a great rapper. Unfortunately, he just kind of has like a lot of weak records in the discography. But super furry animals, I never really got into them, so I cannot really comment on their music in a significant fashion, so I apologize, Brian. Hey, any possibility of a Soundtracks for the Blind Classics review, Swan's worst to best? I'm not exactly sure as of right now, as I feel like they're still coming out with material, so I don't know if worst to best is really in the works, but maybe a Soundtracks for the Blind review one day. I've listened to ODB's African American Please, and I love it. I give it a decent 9. What would I give it? I would probably give it an 8 or a 9 too. It's a great, underrated fucking album. Hey, Melon Friend, I was wondering what your opinion and rating of the new Sumac record, Love in the Shadow. Is personally one of the most innovative metal records in years. I don't personally see it as that innovative. I think it's it really just kind of feels like the collaborative record they just dropped, but without as many experimental, wild, off-the-wall guitars. It seems like the band is also drawing their songwriting style out to the point where their music just becomes almost torturous to me. I thought their stuff in the past was a little long-winded before, and needed a bit more in terms of just flashier playing to kind of keep it more interesting, or interesting change-ups and switches just to bring more variety, versatility, dynamics. Again, I'll just say the word variety across the track, but I just don't think that that's the case on this new LP. It really just kind of falls flat for me on a lot of fronts. Do I know Foster the People's existence? If so, is there a reason you've never reviewed any of their work? Just curious, love your videos. Ow! I didn't review their debut LP because I just thought it was really bland indie pop, and I thought that Run My Gun track was really annoying. The follow-up record, I think I covered maybe one of their follow-up records. I can't quite remember, but I felt like they were equally as bland. Just really uninteresting group to me. Don't really bring much to indie pop, in my opinion. They're just kind of a write-off for me. Just they don't really factor. Sounds kind of callous and sounds kind of harsh, but there are a lot of groups out there right now, and I think they're way more worthwhile artists at the moment. What was my favorite Kinks album? Probably, what is it? Greenhouse Society? Am I even remembering that correctly? I don't think I've listened to a whole Kinks album since college. I think them and their string of concept albums in the mid-'70s are very underrated. Also, did I listen to the new Cake song, for which some reason is on SoundCloud? There's a new Cake song on SoundCloud. I used to be kind of obsessed with Cake in high school because I was just learning bass, and they just always had really great bass lines. And my dad liked them too, and my dad didn't really like any of the music that I listened to, but they were one of the few bands that he liked. But I'll have to check out the new Cake song if I if I remember to. Excuse me. What would I rate Gorillaz' Demon Days and their self-titled album? The self-titled, I think, would at least be a 7 or 8. Demon Days is at least a 9. It's a really great record. Promise me you'll listen to the Jessica Hoop single Memories Are Now from the same titled album either today or tomorrow. By far the best song you turned me on to. So worth it. Let me see. Okay, I will. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've heard that before. Jessica. Yeah. All right. Brian, thank you very much for coming by again. Did you have some EP soundtrack to recommend for this time of year, Halloween? I don't know why some John Carpenter film soundtrack is the best for the celebration to me. I mean, it is the best for the celebration, honestly. But honestly, I don't have a whole lot of Halloween albums or a whole lot of records that I would call Halloween albums. I guess if you want to get really weird and spooky, you could probably listen to Scott Walker's Bish Bosh. Denny. Ow! Thank you, Denny. Thank you, Denny the Many. But yeah, you could probably listen to Scott Walker's Bish Bosh. Do I have any music that maybe isn't objectively the best, but you still love it wholeheartedly? I myself love some trashy screamo. Let me think of one that comes off the top of my head. It's trashy, but I love it anyway. I mean, I feel like I love Lil B despite the fact that he's trashy. You know, like young bass god fucked your bitch in a library. Young bass god fucked your bitch in in an MRI office. Yo, Anthony, thanks for putting me on to Brockhampton. Thank you, Ben. Ow! I listened to a lot of Pink Floyd and Nine Inch Nails discography recently. What is your favorite Nine Inch Nails album? It's Downward. Want to get into Death Grips. Do I start with EPs? Start with Ex-Military or The Money Store. Or Bottomless Pit. Hey, Anthony, are you of the mindset that it is impossible to like someone that has different political beliefs than you? A friend of mine recently stopped talking to me due to who I was voting for. I guess it depends on what those beliefs are. Hold on one second. All right. Given your love for the new Polyphia, I'd recommend keeping your eye on the progressive post-hardcore movement. There are many choice bands. Like, okay, I'll take that recommendation. As far as like disliking someone for their political beliefs, I do think that there are, for me personally, I do think that there are some non-starters for me, really. I think during a time when our politics were maybe corrosive in a much more subtle way, it was easier to just be like, hey, you know, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, it's not a big deal. And I'm not even saying that necessarily has to be a deal breaker anymore. I think it really comes more down to what is your mindset and what is your philosophy. To me, if it's your opinion that no matter what party is doing it, if it's your opinion that it's totally cool to discriminate against immigrants and separate them and put the kids in cages and mercilessly bomb innocent civilians overseas, you know, if basically our economy of death is totally cool with you, not only totally cool with you, but you think it's like great, I don't think we can really be friends because honestly, that to me says that you're kind of a heartless piece of shit. And I don't really need a heartless piece of shit in my life. Like, there are lots of people who actually have a brain in their head and a heart in their chest and actually care about the well-being of others. And if you don't care about the well-being of people who are helpless or people who are who can't defend themselves or people who the situation that they're in is out of their control. Like if you don't have the heart to sympathize with people who are in that situation, like how are you going to treat me? How are you going to treat, like to me, that's a no fucking brainer. You know, if you can't make the right moral choice when it's a no fucking brainer, you know, like how are you going to make the right moral choice when it comes to a more difficult situation in regards to our friendship? You're not going to make the right fucking choice. So honestly, I would just cut them off. You know, if their beliefs are that shitty, you know, if we're talking about somebody who's like, you know, I believe the government shouldn't spend so much money and blah, 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 you know, then it's like, okay. I mean, we could have a debate about that. That's not really something that, you know, obviously I disagree, but whether or not the government should deficit spend or not deficit spend, I feel like is not really like something that you can tear a fucking relationship apart over. You know, but if you're somebody who, you know, is basically like the kind of dickhead who's saying shit like, we should bomb the whole Middle East until it just turns to fucking glass, then I want to have nothing to do with you. All right. Hey, Anthony, if you had to choose between the two, black metal or death metal, you know, I like the brutality of death metal, but I think ultimately I'm wooed by the mysticism and by the lore and by the melodies of black metal, honestly. I think I'm a little bit more intrigued by that. Hey, Anthony, what do I think of the groups Pop Will Eat Itself and Meat Beat Manifesto? I haven't heard Pop Will Eat Itself. Meat Beat Manifesto, I feel like I've heard of in passing, but I've never really gotten into a full album of theirs. So I apologize, cannot really comment on either on Red Cal XZ. But still, I mean, thank you for popping by. Mwah. First off, nice shades. Thanks. Got them on Zenny Optical. This is not a paid advertisement. Now, how familiar are you with Cambodian music? Not familiar at all. I believe there was a small compilation of some stuff that came from over there that I might have heard on Soundway Records, if I'm remembering correctly, but outside of that, none. No familiarity whatsoever. Would I ever consider reviewing Dengue Fever's compilation? Oh, are they a Cambodian group? I have known about them. My wife is bigger into them than I am, but I didn't even know they were from Cambodia. I don't know. I would have to, is it a new album? I mean, obviously that factors for me personally. But I'll save the suggestion and I'll try to check it out if I get an opportunity. Thank you. But yeah, I didn't even know they were Cambodian. That's interesting. You learn something new every day, even things about things that you should know. Hey, Antoine, Beastie Boys are my favorite band of all time, and their album Paul's Boutique is my favorite of all time. What are your thoughts on that album? One of the best sample-laced records of all time. Eggman is an amazing song. So is Shake Your Rump. Some of the best hip-hop tracks of the decade on that record. Yeah, just really creative record, just amazingly produced. And the Beastie Boys, as far as their chemistry, their collective energy, it's really top-notch on that record. You know, that and the following one were pretty great, pretty raw. Also, Ill Communication, amazing album too. I mean, the Beastie Boys have a pretty solid discography, honestly. Did I review Changes by Charles Bradley? I did not. If so, did I enjoy it? I thought while he was kicking, Charles Bradley didn't have like the best tunes on his record, although doesn't he have a posthumous album coming out soon or something? Because I think I heard that, and I am interested in giving that a try if that is in fact the case. It was what got me into soul music, and I loved it. Can I please review the posthumous album? Okay, cool. So there is a posthumous album. Is it out already? Is it out already? Charles Bradley album. I'll try to give myself a reminder for that. I've noticed a lot of younger rappers paying homage to Kurt Cobain in their songs. No problem with that, but don't understand the influence he would have on hip-hop thoughts. I mean, hip-hop, for the most part, with a lot of the lyrical references, is just about kind of like getting down to touchstones of mainstream culture. Nirvana is a very mainstream band, you know, and I feel like that's why Kurt really kind of gets brought up a lot. He's an icon. Why do I think 94% of your viewership is male? Do a vid about how it is hard for women to break into the industry. Songs to cry to playlist coming. What is love? Is Cal your best friend? Cal's not my best friend. He's just my roommate. As far as like my viewership being 94% male, I'm not really sure. I mean, I think, I don't know, maybe if I were cute like Onision or something, I might have more viewers who would want to watch me be cute or something. But that's insulting to say. I guess I don't really know. I think a lot of people just kind of want to watch people who I guess they identify with on YouTube. I mean, across the board, the consumption of music reviews for numerous websites is pretty slanted toward the male side. And I don't really know why. I don't really know. I think that if there were some female reviewers out there, they'd probably have a greater female following than me. Maybe because they would speak to thoughts and issues and topics that female music fans might have greater concern with or something. I mean, I'm not really sure. I don't feel like I'm actively doing anything to prevent women from watching, but yet there just aren't really that many women watching. It's really totally out of my control, I guess. You know, here's the thing. Like, you can make any kind of content, whether it be books, YouTube videos, music, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, you don't really pick how people perceive or consume your content, and you don't really get to pick who perceives or views your content. So, I mean, I don't know. If it was something that I had, like, an easy, snappy answer for, believe me, I would give it to you. And if there was an easy, snappy answer for it, I feel like it would probably be something that I could change or fix or alter. But honestly, it's something that over a lot of thought, I've never been able to come to a conclusion on it. And even my female viewers, who seem to be conscious of the fact that there are very few of them in my audience, don't really seem to have an answer to it either, which, I mean, given that you're a female viewer, I would expect maybe you to have a bit more insight into it than I do. Because honestly, I don't really have supremely acute insight into a lot of the reasons people watch my videos, because very few people watch for one single reason, and a lot of people don't really watch for exactly the same reason. So I don't know. Guess I'll just leave it at that. Given your thoughts on Hippocampus, Beach Bunny might not be up your alley, but please give them a chance. They were much entertaining to watch live, and it feels night and day. Review next album. I don't know, possibly, maybe. It all depends on whether or not I hear the record or whether or not something else is grabbing my attention at the time. Jesus. Medina. Have I heard of Rodriguez? And do you like the Grateful Dead? Not a big Grateful Dead guy, no. Jam bands in general, not really. It's just, you know, people ask me all the time, are there genres you don't like? And I guess that's not a genre I'm huge on. Though I guess maybe one day I could potentially be swayed. I don't know. But I have not heard of Rodriguez, so I can't comment on that either. I apologize. Ow! New versus old Eminem. Old Eminem is better. Drone Smelter. It's better. Hey, Fantano, what are your brief thoughts on the latest album from Avondale Bowling Club? If I haven't heard it, I think it's got some pretty cool tracks on it, some good jazzy instrumentals and some decent flows, but after a while I found the raps and the vocals to be kind of boring, and I didn't think the instrumentals played out all that fantastically across the length of the entire record either. Just felt like a bit of a one-dimensional record to me. I mean, it's certainly a great rap record for New Zealand, but do I think it could go toe-to-toe with a bunch of American records? Not really. I think there's stuff about it that's not that bold or as bold as it could possibly be. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. Also hopes for the upcoming Daughters album. Yes, I am looking forward to the new Daughters record, and I hope it's great. Just hoping it's good. Big fan. The Corey Feldman review is one of the all-time greats. What are your top 5 picks for the Rock Hall this year? What are your thoughts on the Boxer Rebellion? No thoughts on the Boxer Rebellion, but as far as like the Rock and Roll Hall, I have no clue who's even in the fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I pay so little attention to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I pay about as much attention to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as I do the Grammys, and I don't really pay that much attention to the Grammys. Just award shows in general just seem like totally pointless, just jerking off, in my opinion. But I mean, yeah, I really don't know who isn't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right now. Put fucking Napalm Death in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you pussy. Put Dark Throne in there too while you're at it. In a study, science tried to find the most feel-good song of all time. Dancing Queen was a front runner. That song, for some reason, elicits a very sad response from me. Is there a song that comes off differently to you? After listening to the remix of it, I now, for the rest of my life, hear the inherent sadness in the Village People's YMCA. And when I say the remix, I mean the edit that Neil Cicerega did of the song on one of his, kind of meme mashup albums. Do look that mashup up. I've given it a review. Neil Cicerega, he has like a Mouth Sounds, Mouth Moods records where he does a lot of cool zany mashups of songs and popular tunes. And he just mixed that song with these really depressing string sections, and it really made me reflect on how sad the lyrics are. Hey, Anthony, looking good. Was wondering if you've gotten a chance to listen to Zach Villere and at all, and what your opinion on him is. I have no clue who he is, so I cannot comment. So I've not had a chance to listen to him. You're the first person to even put that assembly of letters in front of my face, so I was not even aware of this person's existence. But thank you, Samoto22. I saved that recommendation. Controversial opinion, A Tribe Called Quest is the greatest rap group of all time. NWA isn't even top 10. None of the members could keep up with Ice Cube, and Straight Outta Compton is overrated. Isn't even greatest rap group. Not even top 10? NWA not even top 10? I'm trying to think of rap groups that I would put above NWA. I mean, obviously... A Tribe. Obviously, I would put Wu-Tang over them. I would probably... Who else would I put over them? I mean, what is a... Like, what is... Like, I don't see a duo as a group necessarily. You know what I mean? So, like, it has to be, like, quite a few guys, like, all rapping together. I mean, I'd probably put Brockhampton over them, maybe. Ooh. But honestly, like, as far as, like, classic hip-hop groups... I think NWA is easily in the top 10. I don't see why you wouldn't want to put them in the top 10. I would definitely put NWA over like 3 6 Mafia, and 3 6 Mafia is pretty classic. I would see them potentially getting in the top 10 too. So, also another question: thoughts on the Shins earlier discography? Shoots, Wincing, Oh Inverted. I've never been a Shins guy. Just always thought they were one of the blander indie rock bands out there. They just never really sat well with me. Them and groups like Pedro the Lion, who are just like way too I don't know, just really underselling their music a lot of the time. The indie rock groups that really kind of captured my attention were the Modest Mouses, the Arcade Fires, the bolder groups out there who just had a bit more bite to their sound, the Of Montreals, that sort of thing. Have I heard of the 80s Japanese band Mariah? 80s Japanese music seems to be a rising trend at the moment, and it's very interesting. Are you talking about like city pop type stuff? Though that's not, I think that's more of a 70s trend, if I remember correctly. But no, I'm not familiar with that group. I'll have to try them out. Thoughts on The Fragile by Nine Inch Nails. In my opinion, an extremely underrated, intriguingly adventurous, and unjustly maligned record. Also, thoughts on Politicon this year. I'm going to try to catch up with some of the debates that get launched onto YouTube this weekend, so I'm looking forward to it. But as far as The Fragile, I mean, I own it. I think it's great. I think it's a really good double album. But I don't see it as that underrated of a record. I mean, it's not as mainstream as Downward Spiral, obviously, but the fans love it. You know, it's certainly not as weak as some of the material Trent was coming out with in the 2000s. You know, I see it as a record that a lot of Nine Inch Nails fans love, and rightfully so. It's a good double album, a lot of great material on it. And as you say, it is an adventurous record. So again, obviously not as mainstream, but I don't think Trent was trying to make a super mainstream album on that one. I mean, obviously he had tracks. He was obviously trying to come out with a great single, Starfuckers, great song. But, not everybody sort of stays on the top of the pile forever, and Trent was eventually going to hit a point where he was going to, wane a little bit in terms of his mainstream visibility. But still, that's a really great record that I think a lot of people celebrate. Have I listened to Loyal Carner, Yesterday's Gone? Great album. Yeah, I have. I mean, he seems like a pretty cool rapper. I mean, his lyrics don't really speak to me all that much, but he seems like a pretty positive, cool dude. Please, your opinion on Unwound, specifically Leaves Turn Inside You. I've never really been a big Unwound guy, even though I do love post-hardcore, like especially the grimier underground stuff that's a bit more abstract. And they are so like that band. They are so a post-hardcore band that I should love the fuck out of. But they've never really clicked with me. And it seems like a lot of people are kind of now just discovering them through the internet, which is cool. It seems like they're getting a bit of a second wind and everything. But still not really one of my favorite post-hardcore acts, though. I do appreciate that they're, not one of those super annoying poppy groups that kind of help kill the genre. Does Kanye's craziness that leads to his antics the same craziness that leads to his best work, especially albums like The Late Ye, KSG, and The Life of Pablo? I mean, I think so to a degree. I think so. I mean, it's the same person with the same emotions, and they're, fueling their other behaviors. They're probably, he literally has recent music about, what he sees as his craziness. So I don't think you could really kind of separate his music entirely from it. You know what I mean? Because it's like literally a product of it in a topical sense. Ow! Nissen Modai, Boiler Room, in stereo. No, I had no idea. It's a great experience. You listen to listen in the same way than some Godspeed You Black Emperor. And what did you think of Harsh Noise Wall Gender? Possible to consider that like music? I mean, Harsh Noise, I think, is technically, in a sense, music. But do I get I'll save this recommendation, but do I get the same thing out of it that I would stuff people would traditionally label as music? Not really, though it can be pretty stimulating and kind of a reset button, like something that kind of helps you defrag your brain. Have you ever considered reaching out to Corey Feldman and trying to get unbanned from his live shows? Ow! Honestly, I just want to wear it as a badge of honor now. I got banned from Corey Feldman shows. There are very few people who can say that, so I'm just going to let Corey have control of his life, have control of his live performances, and just let him do him. Just let him do him. Because, he's let me do what I do in the review. and not tried to step on me with, a DMCA or anything like that. So, I'll let him do him. I'll let him do him. What band in metal do you think was the most flawless, critically acclaimed, or boundary-pushing discography, genre-wise, death, stoner, metalcore, progressive, industrial? What metal band has one of the most flawless discographies? What metal band has one of the most flawless discographies? I'm not really sure off the top of my head. I mean, I think Judas Priest has like a pretty great discography. Black Sabbath's is pretty good too. But the thing is, like, a lot of those groups who are older, who have some of the most classic shit in their catalog, they do go on to make like a few dud records here and there. I wouldn't even put Iron Maiden up on the board because they have had a lot of bad records over the years. Slayer's discography is actually pretty fantastic too, despite, some of the 2000s era stuff that they came out with. I don't really know. Like a super major band. I mean, I think Death probably comes like one of the closest bands, and not to just bring them up again. But, Death does come, I think, the closest to having one of the most sort of like flawless discographies. However, that partially comes with the fact that the band, in a way, ended prematurely, and that's the thing. I feel like you're either a group that, you're an older group and you live on and you keep going. And somebody said Pantera, but obviously, like, their early work is not that good. But still... you're either a classic group who continues on and you go on to release some mediocre records, or you end up being one of those bands that just releases 3 to 4, maybe even 1 or 2 great records, and you disappear off the fucking map, which is obviously not preferential for its own reasons. So I don't know. In light of reading in the Spin article that the viewers are 94% male, I decided to start a Female Fantano Forever Club F4 on Facebook to bolster the femme following and find my melon head sisters. Do I have support? Okay. I mean, I assume if somebody looks for the Femme Fantano Forever Club on Facebook, they will find your page. So that seems pretty searchable. So if you're interested in this, join up, look it up, join up, look it up, and find it there. Have I peeped the rapper Fuck It yet? Ow! And I got to give you a ow. And if I didn't give you a ow, there you go. So and also a ow if I didn't give you one, and ow. So I apologize for that to the $20 people. I do got to give you a ow. I do owe you a ow. But no, I've not heard the rapper Fuck It yet, but I will save that recommendation. He had his song 30 blow up years ago, and he's remained underground, and he's pumped out more hits and a new EP this year titled Scratch Paper. Do you think he should be blowing up more? Again, not familiar with the guy, but maybe his stuff will be really good, and maybe it will blow up more eventually. Ophelia Thornton. I've been watching your vids for about 5 years, and I've always wondered if you have any interest in musical theater, or if you have a favorite musical. Also, what is your favorite kind of bean? Probably either black beans or chickpeas. I have vague interest in musical theater. A lot of it comes off maybe a little too overwrought and corny and campy to me, but I feel like that kind of comes with the territory of musical theater for it to be a little campy. Campiness in vocal jazz and metal music is certainly a thing that can hit me in a positive or sour way before. And as far as like, musical theater and musical movies, I mean, I love like Willy Wonka, Willy Wonka I think is pretty great. I enjoy some songs from the Aladdin musical I think are quite nice, and Les Miserables, and Sound of Music. But again, not like a huge musical guy, not like super deep into musicals. Like the musicals I could name that I like songs from are just super popular mainstream fucking musicals. And then again, there are like really popular musicals out there that I'm aware of that I've never even seen, like Cats, for example. Never seen Cats, but and I don't know if I ever even will. But again, not like super deep into musicals. Though I'm sort of musical neutral sometimes, I guess. Have you ever bought a way too expensive physical record that I later regretted buying? Also, you have any specific albums you wish you owned? I can't think of any albums I wish I owned off the top of my head, although I did buy a record that I've been wishing I owned for a long time because I found it really cheap on Reverb. You know, honestly, for a good deal of my life, I have always been super frugal with my record buying. Like, I haven't really spent a whole lot of money, like when I was in high school and in college, like on collector's records and that kind of shit. So I would tend not to overspend on stuff. There have been some albums or records here and there that I regretted buying just merely off of like just blindly wanting to try them. And then I took it home, and I feel like you overpay for an album at any price if you think it sucks. So that's happened a good handful of times. But outside of that, you know, I've never paid like $90 for some random fucking album and been like, oh man, I fucking hate myself for doing this. Mostly because, like, if I'm going to spend that much, I better know I fucking love that record and I have like some deep, I need to have this feeling. But also on top of it, I'm usually pretty controlled about my spending, and there are a lot of albums, even ones that I love, that if you're trying to price gouge me on it, I can easily just walk away and be like, fuck this. Please check out He's Gone by The Dead Live, Amsterdam 72. Okay. What's your favorite Bob Dylan album besides Blonde on Blonde and Highway 61? Probably The Times. But Blonde on Blonde is my favorite. What's worse? Oh, and let me give you a, ow! Anthony Anderson, KJ, what's up, dude? Ow! What's worse? People who think Kanye is alt-right or people who think you're alt-right? Love you, Fantano. You honestly inspire me with how you did this basically on your own, no matter how corny that is. Keep doing you. What's worse? Because it affects me personally, I think I'm just going to have to go with the latter. I could really give a shit about whether or not people think Kanye is all right. I mean, I don't think he's all right. I think that's a preposterous claim. I think he's misinformed. I think he is misguided. I think he's hard-headed and stubborn. But I don't think Kanye is like an ethno-nationalist. But again, I could give a fuck if people think that he is. However, again, the latter, I think they're worse to me personally. Thoughts on Teen Suicide, American Pleasure Club, and any other Sam Ray projects? Sam Ray, I think, is a nice guy. You know, he's messaged me recently, and we had a bit of an internet tiff a while ago. We have recently made amends. He produced some pretty cool tracks with Kitty recently, which were pretty fun, bouncy, danceable pop cuts with a swagger, with a flair. And I've heard a few of his records before. Thought they were okay, but you know, I'm looking forward to trying out the next thing that he's doing, I guess. You know, I see him as a cool little lo-fi sorcerer, though I think his songwriting could use some more work. Though again, I think that's my opinion on his previous records. You know, I don't know where he's at right now creatively. Have I listened to Big Time Rush's self-titled debut album? I feel that it's very underrated. Also, can you check out underground rappers such as MC Flame? I think I might have heard Flame in passing, but Big Time Rush is not really my deal. But hey, if you're into that and you think that's underrated, that's totally good, dude. I believe in you. I fucking love your independent spirit. So... Tyler, the Creator's early and controversial discography is much more interesting when viewed as a satire or parody of hypermasculinity in hip-hop by a young black gay kid trying to figure himself out. I mean, I think you could definitely make the argument that at that point maybe Tyler was trying to really figure himself out, but I feel like he would need to be a little bit more self-aware and conscious of exactly what he's parodying for it to be, number one, a parody, and number two, a satire in the first place. But knowing what we know now about Tyler and the way that he's progressed over the years, it certainly does sort of put that material in a different and an interesting light. Ow! Favorite movie soundtracks? Wedding Singer? No. Have the sleepy music diehards arrived at your house with their pitchforks? They have arrived at my house with bottles of Ambien, and they just throw them at my front lawn. And it's just nothing but bottles upon bottles of Ambien. And warm glasses of milk and candles on one of those like ring holders, and pajamas. They throw tons of pajamas, and I hate them. Ow! Ow! Any hip hop rappers with killer discographies? Has Biggie and Tupac had any tens? Name some R&B classic albums. Erykah Badu, Mama's Gun. I mean, I think that's like kind of an R&B and neo soul classic. D'Angelo, Voodoo is pretty fantastic. That is definitely an R&B classic. Can't think of kind of another older one off the top of my head, but I digress. But I mean, I guess as long as we're talking about like, are we talking about like 80s contemporary R&B shit too? Because then, I mean, I feel like a lot of Prince and Michael Jackson albums are fair game as well. And those are obviously like classics to the 10th degree. So, but anyway, hip hop rappers with killer discographies. I would say Organized Confusion. I would say Wu-Tang Clan. I would say a lot of the Wu-Tang solo efforts. Especially Ghostface Killah. I think he has a killer discography. I would say Public Enemy has a really killer discography. Beastie Boys has a killer discography. I would say, Pharcyde has some great records. I would say MF Doom, obviously, but you have him as your fucking avatar. I would say... Who the fuck else has a really killer discography? I'm just trying to think of older artists. Obviously, Kendrick and Kanye and Jay-Z and blah, blah, blah. But they're modern, they're new, they're around. You know who the hell they are. Jay-Z does have a relatively solid discography, and that deserves absolute respect, the body of work that he's managed to build over the years. I'm trying to think of who else off the top of my head. Oh, yeah, obviously A Tribe Called Quest, Outkast, okay, so I mean, those are ones that I've listed enough. Would you consider Hella Hold Your Horse for a classic review? Am I going to do a review on the Viagra Boys album? I'm not sure on the Viagra Boys record just yet because I've listened to it. It's a little all over the place stylistically, and I feel like as the band shifts in a variety of experimental and rock music styles, like some tracks are really cool and some tracks fall completely flat on their face, and there are other records that I think are kind of stealing my attention right now, though I do love Sports as a single. I don't know if I would consider Hella Hold Your Horse for a classic review in the near future, but it is a great math rock record and deserves recognition. Which past subculture do I miss in youth culture today, and which one had meant the most to you personally? Do I think there is a lack of them in today's culture? No, I think today's, here's the thing. I don't know if I would say anything is missing in today's youth culture, but here's the thing. Like, in the internet age, no subculture truly dies. I mean, today I can go online or I can go to certain places in America and you could find punks, backpackers, EDM kids that dress like ravers. You could find black metal fans, stoner metal fans. You could find, did I say goths already? I mean, you probably couldn't go anywhere in America and find mods or guys that dress like they're in fucking new wave bands. But I wouldn't necessarily say that's something that's missing. You know what I mean? I feel like the beauty of today's internet culture is that everything currently exists now. Nothing has really truly disappeared entirely from our culture. Which, maybe in a way that kind of sucks because shit never really truly dies, when maybe there are some things that should go away because they fail to continue to add to the overall cultural conversation. But yeah, I don't really know if the youth today is missing out on anything because there's so much they could have access to. However, maybe that is a problem in and of itself because with too much choice, you never really fully dive that deeply or into or really fully are embedded into or really deeply appreciate much of anything. Typo Negative's debut album, Slow, Deep, and Hard, is one of the best metal records ever made. And that's a band that I should have mentioned earlier. Typo actually has a pretty solid discography. Best metal record is extremely underrated compared to their other records. Agree, disagree? It's one of the best metal records ever made. It's extremely underrated and compared to their other records. I mean, I think it's rated about properly. I would say it's rated about properly. I don't agree with it being like their number 1 or number 2 record. You know what I mean? But I think it's a solid record. If someone else give an album a 10 out of 10 and I, Charthany Pimptano, give a score of X out of 10, I am totally fine with that opinion. If you don't give a number answer, we assume Pound Syndrome isn't a 10. Okay, I'm just gonna agree, Hunter. I'm just gonna agree with you on that. 2 weeks ago, I sent you a recommendation to Tall Black Guy, 8 Miles, Moen Art. Have I given it a listen yet? As I said earlier, and you obviously missed this, and that's not your fault. I was not able to get through the suggestions from last week because I did have another swamped week this week. I've had to take care of a lot of extra stuff around the house and sort of devote more time to that because my wife is away on her job this week. So I've been on my own on the home front, and it has kept me a little slammed in between balancing things at the house while also keeping up my usual video output. So do forgive me on not being able to get through all the recommendations from this past week. But I do have it saved, and it will be I will get to it when I do get to all the other ones too. Hey Anthony, your friend Dr. Rondo here. Oh, hi Dr. Rondo. My doctor, Dr. Rondo. What a great doctor. And I hope you are doing well today. I'm doing just fine. Can you just clarify the scoring system for albums? Like how is what else goes into it? I don't really know if much else goes into it as far as the score side. I mean, it's really a matter of my overall feelings and a combination of going through each track on the album, kind of averaging it out in terms of like, okay, is every track on the album great? Are half the tracks shitty? Is every track shitty? And I sort of use that as a preliminary guide to kind of figure out how the album plays out overall, just on a song-by-song basis. And then once I go from there, I try to think about whether or not I think that reflects or whether or not I think that truly reflects my complete feelings on the album as a whole and my experience listening to the entire thing. Because there have been some albums that maybe for, whatever reason, let's say half the tracks are great. They're fantastic. But they may score a little lower than any other record that might also fit that same criteria, because maybe the other half of the songs are all like 15 minutes each and they all fucking suck and they're the worst thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You know what I mean? Like, sure, maybe while on paper it might say, hey, half the tracks are great. Half the tracks are fantastic. But the overall experience with my album, because of specific things having to do with specific songs and the way that album specifically plays out overall, would probably bring the score down even lower. So there are, song by song and overall experience factors that I take into account when I do reach the ultimate score, I guess, which I've not really gotten into the specifics of before. So good on you for pulling that out of me. Hi, sweets. What's one misconception that just won't die about you? And that you want all of your fans to know, Fantano forever, and also your birthday is coming up. What kind of gift do you want from us? Oh, I just want you to watch me as consistently as you continue to watch me now for the next 15 to 20 years of your and my life. That's really all that I want for my birthday. So let's keep it going, boys. But what's one misconception about me that I wish people... I guess that I don't hate hip-hop or something. There's some people who still are functioning with that assumption, but I don't know. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? If you ranked Rap Devil, Duppy Freestyle, Story of Adidon, Killshot, Infrared, And back to back, where would I place them? I would probably put Rap Devil at the bottom. Duppy Freestyle would come after it. Then back to back, then Infrared, then Added On, then I would say Killshot is maybe the best. I feel like that's lyrically the most brutal. You know, obviously it didn't sort of like expose Machine Gun Kelly, you know, in the same way that Added On did, but I feel like you can't just give Added On points for like, oh, Pusha T had secret information. Like, not to say that that's cheating, but I feel like Killshot was more lyrically flashy, and didn't need, you know, necessarily a track, you know, or didn't need a bit of extra secret information that nobody knew of to be good. You know what I mean? If Pusha T didn't have that info, you know, what would the track really have, you know? Ow! Danilo. Hey, Fantano, I'm begging to meddle with beat making. Recommend some producers you recommend. My biggest influence right now is Nujabes. I recommend some in his styles, or some that you recommend. I would listen to just a bunch of Madlib or J Dilla beat tapes. Also, there's some really good MF Doom beat tapes that are pretty cool. That should kind of get you started. And also just go on Bandcamp. There's tons of like weird, experimental, chill, lo-fi hip-hop for you to kind of like wrap your brain around. Anthony, I want Cal to answer some questions, please. Consider allowing this one day. Also, upcoming happy birthday. Are you going to put out more of your own music? Can you talk about what has influenced your own music? I haven't really recorded much of that to really kind of get into whatever the influences of that would be. But if I end up releasing anything in the near future, it will most likely be sort of on an anonymous basis, because I would feel like an asshole being like, hey, I'm the famous music reviewer guy, now you're going to listen to my music. Which I feel like there would be people who would like it just because it's me, and there would be people who hate it just because it's me. And, you know, I feel like that wouldn't really, I don't know, to me that I would hope that something I made would just be enjoyed because it's good, not because I'm attached to it. So that kind of presents like a really weird conundrum, which I know is not something that a lot of people these days really kind of care about or think about, as there are a lot of social media stars who hop instantly into music because they're like, oh, well, I'm famous now, so I need to make some fucking music. You know, serious music, obviously. You know, clearly Cal Chichesto is his own thing, and you guys understand that. But it's not really something I've wanted to kind of capitalize on in that awkward way, a way that I would see as awkward, especially considering my line of work. What are your thoughts on Kanye's pre-college dropout work, Freshman to Justin? Yeah, it's a little rough. It's a little rough, but it's fine. You know, I mean, some of that stuff was, you know, released later, but kind of cleaned up and shit. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's all right. What's the most terrifying album you have listened to? Mine is probably Black One by Sun. And if you've enjoyed Little Richard more, would Yachts have been a 10? Possibly. And Black One by Sun is most definitely a very horrifying album. The Drift, Scott Walker, is very horrifying. There are a number of incredibly horrifying Lustmord albums. Lustmord is definitely an artist you want to listen to if you want to hear some horrifying shit, which is actually a good recommendation for the person earlier who was asking about Halloween music. Like, listen to some Lustmord. That is some truly freaky, weird, and terrifying shit. Oh no. Stranded on an Island are four of my least favorite words altogether, but I will read this anyway. Ow! Catastic. You're stranded on an island, and you only have one of your not good records. Which is it? It's fucking... I mean, I didn't formally give it a not good, but it's angelic to the core. Also, are there any artists you're hoping you would see / put out a 10 in the near future? You know, for a second, I was hoping that Iridescence would be a 10. You know, I was kind of like hoping that that would be the case. But the thing is, like, 10s... they're difficult. They often do not come from where you expect them to come from. Like, I did not, if you told me like 5 years ago that I'd be giving Kanye and Kid Cudi a 10, I would have laughed in your fucking face. And then I would have punched you in the fucking face. because they would have thought you were a liar and a horrible person. No person would lie like that and be a good person. But yeah, you know, as far as like hope and anticipation for one though, I don't know. I would love for LCD Sound System to drop an Honest to God 10, or JPEG Mafia. Maybe Peggy has it in them to drop a 10. Peggy's the new experimental hip hop hope. Get 10 out of 10 from Peggy. Hey Anthony, would I consider doing a classic review of Cap'n Jazz's Schmappin' Schmaz? It's one of my favorite emo albums. It is a pretty good emo album, but I'm not sure if I have an emo classic review in me at the end of this year. Do you think learning music theory is necessary to making good music? Also, any thoughts on Jacob Collier? No thoughts on Jacob, honestly, but I do think it's necessary in order to make what's the word I want to use here? A cogent composition. You know what I mean? Because I think, you know, look, anybody can learn a chord, but if you don't know anything about music theory, if you don't know anything about how certain melodies work together in certain scales and why certain chords complement each other as they are kind of like, you know, in a larger family, it's going to be difficult for you to transition from that chord to, you know, where the hell do you go next? What sounds good? What's a good move to make? You know, what makes sense? And look, obviously, music theory is just you know, you can pull any assembly of chords and words together and it's music. You know, reviewing music from a genre/culture you don't fully understand contextually, how much time and energy do you put into listening and researching? I mean, I do as much as I possibly can, but the thing is, like, I have so many other reviews to put out, I have a lot that I have to get done, and everything that I'm doing is all done through the internet. You know, so while I do try to interact with people who might know a little bit more about a certain artist or a certain trend than I do, there's really only so much I can grasp at the end of the day, because again, I am just like interacting with all of this stuff through the internet, and that's not the same as actually being there. That's not actually the same as, like, you know, reading a lengthy book or having some deep conversations about a particular culture or something like that. So I would say at the end of the day, while I do try to do research, it is very surface level. I mean, just enough for me to be able to communicate and talk about the record. New Death Grip sample Nardware S3X noises. Okay. Yes. Okay. Andrew Mills, some suggestions for Classics Week if you choose to consider them. Death in June, Brown Book, The Church Priest, Aura Boogie Down Productions, the Duke Ellington John Coltrane record. The Duke Ellington John Coltrane record is okay, but I mean, I think there were jazz records I would cover before that one, most likely. Maybe Boogie Down. I'm curious, AF Melon, what's the one thing you've learned or confirmed about humanity since starting this channel? Dealing with crazy musicians, crazy companies, crazy fans, and crazy Twitter. Honestly, at the end of the day, I don't feel like musicians generally are that crazy. I think a lot of them are quite normal. No opinion on St. Paul and the Broken Bones, not really familiar. And will I review Couch and Chess's new mixtape? Your audio is static, Melon. And I apologize if that's the case. I don't know why the audio would be so static. Hold on one sec. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Hopefully, maybe adjusting that fixed it. But yeah, I can't really. I don't really know if I'm going to review that new cow. Probably. Have you heard anything by Billie Eilish? Yes, I do think she's a tad overhyped at the moment. I don't really find her to be that interesting of a singer. I think people like Charlie XCX are far more intriguing. But maybe her next project will wow me a little bit more. And let me see what's going on here. So let me get back to the question of what I found out about artists in the industry and so on and so forth. I found artists to be just kind of like regular, normal, chill people who just kind of do a cool music thing at the end of the day. Like, they're famous for making music that a lot of people like, but at the end of the day, a lot of them are pretty regular and, put on their pants one leg at a time. They shit, they eat breakfast cereal, they get depressed. They like to watch Netflix shows, all that good stuff. So I haven't really found musicians to be that crazy. I already knew the industry was super snaky going into this, so that wasn't really a surprise. I guess the craziest thing that I've learned since this is just how obsessive some people can be on the internet, like kind of being the subject of somebody's positive or negative obsession can be a little strange, can add a lot of unnecessary pressure, and can feel kind of weird. It's not really something you ever truly 100% get used to, and it does put you in a weird position because it's almost like every conversation you have with people is like the well is poisoned because their entire perception of you is based around just like this video content that you make and really might not get to the heart of who the real you is. So that I've kind of struggled with kind of learning and getting a full grasp of over the years. Which artist do I think is most likely to get a second 10 out of 10? I'm sure you get asked this a lot. I don't know at this point, honestly. Like, I think Kendrick at this point. Favorite Miles Davis album, On the Corner, Bitches Brew, are the right answers. Also, if you haven't seen this yet, your mic is getting crazy static, sounding like a clipping album. Damn it. Let me, in to the most significant Q&A live stream, so I'm going to be taking all your Fortnite questions. I don't know, I did a little adjustment there. Is the mic still getting tons of static, guys? I don't know. Let me know if, no, it's fixed. Okay, it says it's fixed now. Cool. All right, sorry about the static, guys. Sorry about that static. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably like either Bitches Brew, Silent Way is pretty great, Birth of the Cool is pretty fantastic. But yeah, definitely Bitches Brew out front. Am I going to review San Halo's new album? I have not heard it. I'm not really familiar with the artist, so it has not been on my calendar. So I cannot say. It's not looking good right now. Would highly recommend checking out WGI and the indoor drumline scene if you like atypical music and performance art. We'll talk also sleeping on Hawk House, Fantwan, and a handshake to the brain. Hawk House is still around? Aren't they a hip-hop trio? Like, they came out with a couple of big tracks and like a mixtape a while ago that I thought was totally boring, despite the fact that I was really hyped for it. But Hawk House, are we talking about the same Hawk House? Eminem is the last of the hip-hop old guard. His disses to mumble rappers are largely innocuous. Is calling mumble rap trash anything new? Do any mumble rap fans care about his opinion? No, they do not care about his opinion, which is why I wouldn't say he's the last of the hip-hop old guard, but he's just kind of curmudgeon-y at this point when it comes to mumble rappers, and I don't really think they give a shit what he thinks. Have you read Meet Me in the Bathroom by Lizzie Goodman? Isn't that the book about the New York 2000s rock scene and the Strokes and all those bands and shit? Yeah. No, I haven't read it. I have read a lot of like headlines and snippets from it because of like the drama that kind of came out of the book and everything. But honestly, as much as I like a lot of those bands, I'm not like really particularly interested in the scene and knowing all of the weird interpersonal inner workings between a bunch of people who are just like a bunch of privileged New York white kids with their fucking heads up their asses. You know what I mean? Like, they made great music, and, you know, I like the records that they contributed to the larger indie scene, but like, you know, everything that essentially went down in the scene, I really couldn't care less, though. I mean, if you lived it, I could see why you would want to read into it. Or if some of those bands are your favorite bands, I could see why you'd want to read into it. And it was an interesting time and a place for music, and it definitely probably deserves documentation, but it's not really something I'm particularly intrigued with. Maybe when I'm older, I'll have a bit more nostalgia for it or something. Melon, why do you think trap music sounds the same? I believe that this is one reason lag music. I mean, trap music just sounds the same now because it's the most popular thing. And when something is the most popular thing, it's because it's following a formula and a blueprint, and everybody else wants to follow that blueprint because people want to make money. So people are making trap music that sounds the same as all the trap music that's popular because they want to make money. So, and they want to get fans, and they want to be in on the trend, and they want to ride the wave. So, I mean, that's really the only reason why. Hey man, the static was really bad when you answered my question. Haha. Do you think you could repeat what you said? I don't even remember what your question about learning music theory. Oh, super curious. Wow, the static was that bad? I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Bring back the static. Short answer to that is I do think it is necessary to learn music theory to know exactly what you're doing. Because, I mean, you could start on a root note or you could start on a chord. And, you know, where do you go from there? You know, music theory lets you know what are your options. You know, what chord could I go to from here? What other notes are in this scale, so that if I'm in a minor key, what notes could I go to? What other notes are accessible to me? What other notes could I play? You know, music theory is essential if you want to know where you want to go. You know what I mean? It's kind of like having Google Maps, but for composition. You know, so if you know where ultimately you want to end up, it's going to tell you all of the directions that you could go in to get there. So, you know, unless you want to just kind of wing it, you know, I mean, you don't need music theory for that. Excuse me. Do I think that Diggable Planets are underrated in the grander scheme of things? Yes, absolutely. I mean, they had a couple of great records. I mean, not a super huge group, but a group that is underappreciated, because I mean, they weren't that big in their own time, but I think they are a jazz rap group that we can look back on and say, whoa, that group is actually pretty sick. It was before my time, but for the early 90s, having a female member in a hip hop group seemed like a big deal. I mean, they just made good tunes. I wouldn't necessarily say that people freaked out about them because they had a female member, or didn't freak out about them because they didn't have a female member. I mean, there was the Fugees. The Fugees obviously had Lauryn Hill. And 3 6 Mafia obviously had Gangsta Boo. So, I mean, not the only group around that time that had such a thing. But you know, still in a way it is a rarity. And, yeah, for sure. Certainly. Bad Baby is the Rachel Dolezal if she had a rap career at 14. That's pretty brutal, but I'm not gonna disagree. I'm just gonna let that stand, I guess. If you don't already know them, I have to recommend The Bad Plus. Yes, I mean, I do know The Bad Plus. I haven't reviewed all of their records, but I have reviewed some of their records. I have reviewed at least a few, I think. Bear vs. Shark, post-hardcore. I do know about them. They are a little annoying, but fun. Murder by Death. I do know them, but I find them a little underwhelming, especially their last record. But, you know, their dreary demeanor can be a good listen if you're really truly in the mood for it. Have you ever seen Kamasi Washington live? Yes, I have, in Washington, D.C. Fucking killed it. They're coming to Salt Lake City on Wednesday, and I'm curious if you had live experience from them. Yes, I have. You should totally go. It is great. They are fantastic live, him and his band, assuming his full band is with him. They probably are, and it's great. Joe Rogan just died. That is not true. Joe Rogan did not die, but that is a very good live stream meme. I do love all the Joe Rogan is dead memes. I'm actually proud of Lucy over here for being the first person to try to advance this meme in the super chats, because everybody else who just sort of throws it into the the chat box has really been too much of a pussy to throw it in up here and let everybody know, apparently, that Joe Rogan has died. Rest in peace, Joe Rogan. it's apparently how we're going to have to kick off every live stream now. Just rest in peace, Joe Rogan. You know, he ate too much fucking meat, and he was really short. So that's probably why he passed away. Hey, have you heard the Cherry Bomb instrumentals? I haven't, but I have heard they got put out. I think it shows off how colorful the beats on the album are. Also, rest in peace, that is the plan. And rest in peace to Joe Rogan. Yes, do check out the Cherry Bomb instrumentals if you guys haven't realized already. Tyler, the creator, quietly released the instrumental version of Cherry Bomb, if you haven't caught that yet. Anthony, are you anticipating the new Antiargo Vespucci album? Do I think Chris Farron hinders or helps Jeff Rosenstock musically? I don't really know how deeply Chris factors, honestly. And I'm not really anticipating the Antiargo Vespucci record, to be totally fair, but if it ends up running across me, I'll probably give it a shot just to see what's going on. Thomas Few, what new music style / genre amalgamations are you most excited to see develop? Would you rather see Agalloch or Altar of Plagues get back together? Suffering Hours passing into Ascension X out of 10. Cannot comment on the Suffering Hour. I would rather see Agalloch get back together, honestly, but that's only assuming if they come out with great music. Altar of Plagues in their final days, though, were getting pretty experimental, and maybe it would be cool to kind of see Altar of Plagues come back with another experimental release. So, but I think I'm going to go Agalloch. But genre amalgamations, I'm kind of interested in hearing what's going to happen around the corner with all of these new trap rappers, like pulling on all of these like heavy metal and nu metal riffs in their shit. I think it's probably going to be a pretty short-lived thing, but I think it could go in an interesting direction. No question, Mellon. Just wanted to say you're amazing and you impact people in a really awesome way. I hope you and Mrs. Mellon are doing well. Mrs. Mellon is doing pretty good. She is going to be coming back tomorrow, so I'm pretty excited for that. Thoughts on Lindsay being kicked out of Fleetwood Mac? Thanks for your thoughts. When did that happen? I mean, I know that happened, but I'm not really aware of when it happened, the trajectory, and everything that led up until that point. I mean, I do love a handful of Fleetwood Mac records, have not heard the whole discography, far from it. But I haven't, other than, you know, the way that they were connected romantically back in the day, I'm not really aware of like all of the inner group dynamics and everything with Fleetwood Mac. I've never really read up on, you know, sort of the interpersonal lore, I guess. Who is one content creator, music, politics, whatever, that you would gladly sucker punch if you had the opportunity, maybe in like the boxing ring or something? Okay, well, I mean, look, I would not, I don't think I could bring myself to sucker punch anybody. Just based off of their shitty content, because I feel like sucker punching is such a dishonorable thing, just punching someone without them knowing it, you know what I mean? Like they don't see it coming, no warning or anything. But there are probably some content creators that I would probably agree to do like a charity boxing match with or something. I love to get scrappy with Paul Joseph Watson and just dominate him, just dom him. And he'd probably like it too. He'd probably love it. Ow! I just want to say Father John Misty and Brockhampton back to back in New Orleans, and it was amazing. Whoa! That's a great 2 questions. Endless or Blonde? I'm more of a, you know, honestly, Endless has grown on me quite a bit since getting the vinyl. It is a much more cohesive experience, but I think Blonde has more bangers, and I think I'm just going to go Blonde. And what's the worst live show I've ever been to and why? I want the full fucking rant. You know, I'm not going to get too deep into the full fucking rant of it, but I have said this before on a stream that one of the worst live shows I'd ever been to was this Cat Power show where the performance was so horrendous that it was at a sold-out church, so hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably well over 1,000 people there. And by the end of her performance, me, my wife, and our friend, who was kind of the third wheel, us, we were maybe 3 of 12 people in there left over at the very end of it. And the reason I don't want to get too deep into it is because she was struggling with alcoholism at the time, and that's not necessarily anything that you want to, you know, make fun of or berate anybody for. I mean, she did come back like a year later or so and did a live performance and totally killed it. And that was, what had happened previously at the performance I was at. That was not the case at all. So, she did bounce back, and it does seem like she's in a better place now. So that's always good. I've been really scared since the news came out that the planet is ending in 12 years. What can we do to not freak out? I already been organizing to end capitalism. What's the world need, Anthony? Reading into that information, I don't think the news is necessarily that the planet is going to end in 10 years. What's going to happen is once 12 years rolls up, if we do not reduce carbon emissions so that the degrees of the planet don't increase a certain number, the effects of global warming at this point are essentially going to be a disaster. We're not going to be able to turn the clock back on them. It's not going to be like in 12 years, the Earth's just going to light on fire or some shit. But in 12 years, we may in fact start seeing some really horrible environmental trends that will make existing on this planet more difficult. And I don't think it necessarily means the end of the world, period. What I think unfortunately is going to happen is that the world is going to become totally unlivable for a lot of people. And I think you may in fact see some famine. You may see people dying. You may see people having wars over fucking water or some shit like that. And I think essentially what's going to happen is we're either going to learn our lesson and really try to put the pedal to the metal and figure out governmentally, because I don't think the market's just going to come up with a fucking answer to this problem, come up with a solution to this. Or we're just going to let people die to the point where carbon emissions is just cut by virtue of people being fucking dead. So, and what's ridiculous about that is that I don't think that's necessary for us to reduce carbon emissions. I don't think it needs to go there. What is your favorite Clash album? It's London Calling. Would I give any a 10 out of 10? I think I would give London Calling a 10 out of 10, honestly. Sup, Melon? I'm doing pretty good. Where's the Cozart review by Chief Keef? That EDM shit makes me laugh every time. Soldier had me in tears. I have not heard it, honestly. You're telling me he's rapping all over EDM on that album? God. Now you've got me. Now you've got me vaguely curious, honestly. Now I really am truly vaguely curious. The Cozart. God, it is 17 tracks. It's just an hour though. I don't know. We'll see. I'll give it a try. I'll see what's up. My favorite White Stripes album is Get Behind Me, Satan. It is Jack's most eccentric BHR. Thoughts on that album, and what is your favorite White Stripes album? Yeah, it is a little weird and eccentric, but I personally find the way that Jack gets kind of experimental on that record to be a tad annoying, which is why it's not necessarily one of my favorite White Stripes album. I think every White Stripes record up until that point is superior to that. However, I would not say Get Behind Me, Satan is the band's worst record. So, I don't think it's, and I don't know if I would necessarily say it's awful either. I would kind of say in a way it's like the beginning of the end for the White Stripes, but I wouldn't say it's a terrible record. It's not a terrible record. Please give the video An Elephant in the Hospital a shout out. It's a lecture in a medical school about male genital mutilation, more commonly known by its euphemism as circumcision. Look, I'm not here to endorse any video pro or against male genital mutilation. I don't even know what the content of the video is. However, circumcision is not necessarily something that I personally endorse based off of what I have read and what I understand about it. But before you go on and make some kind of decision, do your own research into the topic, please. Do not just take this comment in this video and just leave it at that. Your bass guitar skills have inspired me to get back into playing bass. I'm going to get one soon. Yes, please. Bass is great, and bass is always necessary, and bass never really truly goes out of style. There's always a need for a great bass line. Are you familiar with singer-songwriter Warren Zevon? Yeah, a couple of tracks. If not, I highly recommend. If you have, I'm interested to know your opinion of him. P.S. I'm a big fan. I've always liked hearing your opinion. Yeah, I haven't heard a full album from him, obviously. Well, not obviously, honestly is what I want to say. I keep switching up those words. But anyway, ow! Yeah, I haven't heard a full album all the way through, so I can't really comment. Just the hits. So so I can't really say. I don't have like a deep opinion on the guy's body of work or anything. Do you know you have an astute sense of humor, but you're also a very serious melon? You have any favorite comedians? Do I like Mitch Hedberg? I'm glad the world is going to end. We deserve it. Well, unfortunately about the world ending and everything, I mean, maybe it will pan out this way, but I think most of the people in the first world, and I don't just say this because I want to feel good, I think most of the people in the first world are going to be okay. Not just because I think, places where I'm at are less susceptible to some of the more extreme weather events. However, the words I want to follow this up with, but also, countries like, let's just say, I don't know, I'll just say France off the top of my head. I'll say Canada. I'll say the United States will have the resources most likely to attempt to, I guess, counteract some of the negative effects of climate change. What I worry about is that everyone in the third world who is basically going to be torn apart by this fucking thing, and places like America are basically going to be like, see you later, whatever, we don't give a shit. Because, I mean, we turn our backs to so many horrible things, many of which we're actually doing. I mean, does anybody in the White House or in the mainstream news media give a shit about the fact that we're backing Saudi Arabia in basically a mass genocide in Yemen right now? I mean, not really. Well, now maybe they care a little bit now that Saudi Arabia killed a Washington Post reporter. They had to kill a Washington Post reporter for the media to care about all the terrible things Saudi Arabia does. Which, it's just funny to me that they've been exporting terrorism, killing tons of people. But I guess it's true what they say. Death of millions is just a statistic. One person, it's a tragedy. But yeah, I mean, as far as like comedy goes, I love Mitch. But I personally don't feel like I have a very, very astute sense of comedy, because whenever I feel like I try to be funny, I feel like it just falls flat on its face and it sucks. But maybe I'm just a little too overly critical of my sense of humor. But as far as like other comedy stuff that I love Tim and Eric. I love Monty Python. I love absurdist humor. I love corny humor. I love offensive humor. Those are probably my favorite styles of humor. Hi, Anthony. I'd like to recommend you a few brilliant Polish bands. Okay, I will save that recommendation, and I recommend everybody else do the same too. Some Polish band recommendations over here, bitch. If you've ever been curious. Because, I mean, Behemoth shouldn't be the only Polish band we're all listening to. Come on, guys. Hot take, I believe that there are albums that take more than a couple listens to appreciate their greatness. Yeah, sure. But, I mean, you're kind of implying that I and other people out there haven't listened to these albums multiple times anyway. Heyo. I've been considering picking up a bass sometime soon, but don't know where to start. How do you choose? Any thoughts on the new Tundra or Avondale Bowling Club albums? I haven't heard the Tundra. I'm not really sure about that, but the Avondale, I think is like pretty interesting for a few tracks, but not that intriguing across the length of the entire record. I do feel like for jazz rap, it's pretty good for New Zealand, but in the greater scope of jazz rap, like, is it anywhere near as good as like A Tribe Called Quest or something like that? No, like not even halfway close. But as far as picking up a bass, I mean, I'm a Fender guy. I recommend a Fender. if you want a Fender that has a nice, beefy, classic low-end tone, you know, get a P bass, get a precision bass, get a precision bass Fender. If you want something that you can get a bit more treble out of, a bit more brightness out of, something that you can, you know, really kind of do some flashier, more solo-y type shit with, get a Fender jazz bass. And, you know, those are two good starter basses. And if you don't want to pay out the ass to get a Fender, get a Squier. You know, Squier does make some pretty quality basses. That precision bass that I own is a Squier. And I just paid $300 for it. And it's a good ass bass. And, you know, honestly, like some of the pickups or the electronics in the Squiers are not as sharp or as bright. But honestly, for a precision bass, you kind of want it to have a lot of low end. You want it to be a little, you know, muddy and thuddy and, you know, have like some real low end and depth to it. So, you know, the fact that it's not that bright doesn't really factor for me. Plus it's also like a little cheap, fretless bass. And, you know, if you buy a super cheap bass, sometimes the necks are total shit, or the frets are kind of fucked up, or you might get a buzzy fret here and there or something. But on a fretless bass, there are obviously no frets to fuck up. So, you know, it's kind of a good, cheap, fun investment. Thoughts on Kanye versus Radiohead 21st century influences, fan bases, eclectic discography? Whose music do you like better? Who would you prefer to see live? I think I'd prefer to see Radiohead live at this point, but I think honestly at this point, as far as mapping out entire discographies thus far, I think Kendrick is on much more of a Radiohead trajectory than Kanye is. But Kanye is super eclectic and influential. Can I give some thoughts on Tangerine Reef? AC? I haven't heard it, so I can't say, Sam. So I apologize for that, but I've not heard the Tangerine Reef. I do know of a Tangerine Dream, but I have never gotten into a Tangerine Reef. Sorry, Canada just legalized weed. So I'm pretty stoned. Oh, that's fine. I actually love that you guys legalized weed. That's so fucking amazing. I wish we would legalize weed over here. If not just for the fact that we literally incarcerate tons of people for really no reason, just because they have some fucking pot on them. I would love for us to legalize weed and get rid of all of the non-violent drug offenders in prison and sort of give them their lives back, because we waste so much fucking money just jailing people. We jail more people per capita than China, just because of our fucking drug war. But anyway, would I rather lick dirty toes or have your dirty toes licked? I think I'd rather have my toes licked, but not really because I'd get any pleasure out of it, mostly because I'd rather just not lick any toes. I say again, how much of a soy-filled cuck is Tnd Q&A? I mean, I ate some soy yesterday, so I'm probably a little low on my soy intake now. You know what I mean? Like I haven't had that much soy, like not as much soy as like soy with every meal. You know what I mean? I probably could up my soy intake a bit more, but you know, I'd say I'm like on the medium low end of soy at the moment. New Pine Grove review. No, why you no review? I mean, I listened to the new record. Pine Grove doesn't really factor for me. They're just like a completely, in my opinion, just a very average band with an average sound. Sorry, I was off to the side there. But to me, just very average band without much to comment on. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to review the new LP, since I haven't really thought anything up until this point was that interesting anyway. So, hey, Methanilantano. Methanilantano. Where do you get the sweet octagon glasses? Also, why is KSG's brevity a strength, but the brevity of other albums sometimes is a weakness? Keep up on the hot content. I guess the brevity of other albums can be a weakness if I feel like I'm not satisfied by the end of the record. I feel like KSG, and the short runtime that it has, actually provides a really good intro, a build-up, a climax, and then a really beautiful, mellow coast outwards toward the end of the album. You know, some other records leave me wanting more, and in that instance, Maybe, you know, I do kind of comment on the brevity of the record, but maybe my issue isn't as much the brevity as it could maybe be the flow and the structure of the record. Maybe that's kind of another way I should kind of take it and explain it going forward. But yeah. And the octagon glasses I got off of a Pollette, P-O-L-E-T-T-E or P-O-L-L-E-T-E. Just look up Pollette. That's where I got the glasses. While knowing that is the plan is dead, rest in peace. That is the plan. Rest in peace, Joe Rogan. Do you think it's hypocritical that PewDiePie can take the concept and content of That Is the Plan and make a profit on YouTube while they couldn't? You know, honestly, like, while that does annoy me, I feel like that's, you know, less PewDiePie and more just my issue with YouTube, really. Because, like, if I was still doing That Is the Plan, I would be fine with PewDiePie continuing to do it. And I guess in a way now I'm not really all that bothered by PewDiePie continuing to do it. I mean, I don't think he's particularly good at it. However, you know, it is very flattering to know that the biggest YouTuber on YouTube, I mean, not only watches you, but copies you. And, you know, he literally hit me up in the DMs and was like, oh, can I do this? And I was just like, yeah, do what you want. You know, it's nice to be copied. You know, but really at the end of the day, ultimately, I'm not mad at him as much as I'm mad at YouTube. Am I a fan of Jimi Hendrix? I mean, Are You Experienced? Great record. You know, I wouldn't call myself a hardcore fan, though he doesn't have that large of a discography, but he's really great. He's a great guitarist. And maybe there would be a classic review at some point in the future. I am considering the new Adrian Lenker record. There are some really interesting guitar. There's some really interesting guitar work on that record. 0409 Lil Wayne is the most prolific example of quality meets quantity rap has seen. No MC has rapped that well on that many songs and for that long. Yeah, I mean, that span of time for Wayne was his hottest. That span of time for MF Doom was also pretty great too. Almost, maybe a little bit before. But yeah, I mean, he was really prolific around that area and time. It is true. And he was just at his peak stylistically and popularity-wise too. I ever listened to although, I mean, I think maybe going as far as 2009 is a little deep because we're also talking about Rebirth in there, aren't we? Aren't we talking about Rebirth? And, you know about Rebirth. I ever listened to, oh, wait, first. Ow! Have I ever listened to the math rock / fusion guitarist Guthrie Govan? If not, I recommend you check out Erotic Cakes. It's free on YouTube and has some jazz / metal fusion tunes. Okay, that sounds interesting. Erotic Cakes. Baked goods do turn me on. Not really, but I'll say that as a joke. Expectations for Yachty's new album tonight. God, is that tonight? Jesus Christ. Yeah, that is tonight. I forgot. Also, Juice WRLD and Future have a project dropping, which is pretty crazy. But I don't know. I'm kind of hoping he goes back to the little boat aesthetic, you know, just the original. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think the new album's probably going to be bad. What is a better hip-hop album from 2004? It's Mad Villainy. I think Mad Villainy is the best made, but I think College Dropout is my favorite. Both incredible albums, though. I think it's Mad Villainy. Melon, one more reason to love Canada. Burger chain A&W has made a vegan burger so delish that all my meat-eating friends choose it when we go. Love, it makes me cry. Please eat there when you visit. I most definitely will, because I do have a speaking gig over in Canada on the West Coast coming up in the spring. So I most likely will have a veggie burger while I'm out there. Recently discovered you, ow, thank you, Daniel, and want to kiss your melon. I always loved the first three System of a Down, first three albums from System of a Down. They are good, but over the years, Hypnotize is gaining more and more. What do you think? Could you do a worst of best to System of a Down video? I feel like the discography isn't really that large for me to approach it, and I personally prefer Toxicity. I don't feel like Hypnotize, Mesmerize are that great, you know, though it does have its moments. And I feel like everything that we've come to learn about the band not really gelling personally for those records is apparent in some of the lackluster tracks because they cannot get their shit together to come out with a new record. Hello, Howl. Are you fur friend? Oh, I'm good. I'm a dragonkin. Who are your biggest inspirations? Love ya, fluff butt. Basically other YouTube commentators who have passions about particular topics and things that they're experts on. I mean, like when I was starting, I watched people like, you know, the Angry Video Game Nerd like crazy. And I loved the fact that he kind of turned his passion, his hobby into like a weird little show on the internet. And that inspired me. And guys like Gary Vaynerchuk as well. But this is before he became like a social media guru and was more of just like a guy who was like super passionate about wine on the internet. Now listen, we have 10 minutes left of this whole thing. So Tangerine Reef, Tangerine Reef Animal Collective. Oh, okay. Yeah, I still haven't heard the Tangerine Reef. It's literally not been a priority for me at all. I'm sorry. I just have not heard the Tangerine Reef at all. Because let's give you guys a bit of a peek here, I guess. I don't know if there's, again, 10 minutes left of this thing. I'm going to try to hit up some comments and stuff that, I missed. Let me shrink myself down. There we go. All right. I'm going to try to hit up a few that I might have missed, but, let me give you guys, hold on, a bit of a look over here. Here we go. Ba-bam. Ba-bam. You guys know what you're looking at right now. This is some super duper secret, some super duper secret personal review calendar shit. And right now on my table, I have the new Low, Petite Noir, Me Without You, Lando Chill, Machine Girl, Kurt Vile, Infernal Coil. I got to get a Why You Know review out. Next week, it is, you know, other records that I want to hear. Cloud Nothings, Yoko Ono, How to Dress Well, Greta Van Fleet, Adrian Lenker, Juice WRLD and Future, Rivers of Nihil, Yachty. I do want to try the new T.I. record. There's probably another album or two. Oh, no, Open Mike Eagle is coming out with a record next week. And I forgot to even put that on the list. And there's a bunch of ones next week. Like, for me, Animal Collective does not fit in this. A weird soundtrack album, you know, just like a weird side project record that isn't even a core, like, album for the band does not really, like, you know, say to me, hey, I've got to, like, clear out my schedule and, like, make time for this. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I apologize, you know, if I don't get to the new Animal Collective soon. I will try to make room for it if I do not get a chance to do a formal review of it in the new Why You Know review. Which, as of right now, like, this is how the new Why You Know review is looking. As far as, like, all the artists that I'm going to mention in it. Which is one of the most packed Why You Know reviews in a while. But again, I feel like I have more to talk about and more to address like every year. There's like so many albums coming out all the fucking time. And it's becoming more and more difficult to sort of like balance all of it. And you know, because I feel like more and more I'm like having to cast off albums that ultimately, in a perfect world, if I had infinite time, I most likely would like to review in a much more timely fashion. But there just end up being records that I am personally more interested in, and I just get a higher demand for. Fortet's record? Jesus Christ, there's a fucking Fortet record? When? Seriously? Next week? Like, a Fortet record is really dropping tonight? Oh, the new Keith Ape is boring as hell. The Keith Ape is it is so boring. There's nothing interesting about the Keith Ape record. I just couldn't even listen to the whole thing. I don't even know what Jerry Folk is. I have no idea. I have no clue what the hell Jerry Folk is. You're asking me what Jerry Folk is, like I should know. I have no fucking clue what Jerry Folk is. Yeah, no clue who this good-looking man from Norway is. Dance/electronic. Yeah, I have no clue. Let's see. Floating points? Probably not. I'm not even going to promise a floating points review. Ballads 1. Is that coming out? Is the Joji dropping? Is the Joji literally dropping tonight? I'm going to kill myself if the Joji is dropping tonight. Because, again, that's just like way too much to even think about. What is the most depressing and saddening album I've ever heard? I feel like if the most depressing or saddening albums to you are Kid A and Blonde, you have a lot to listen to, my friend. There are way more depressing albums out there. Elliott Smith's self-titled record is more depressing than both of those records. Not to shit on your taste. I'm not shitting on your taste, but I think there are more depressing records out there. Way more depressing. I mean, there's a whole genre of depressive black metal that I think is a great record. A lot of records are kind of depressing in that genre. Ghostmane, the new Ghostmane album, I actually found kind of funny. I was literally laughing at some parts of it, which is not really the reaction I think Ghostmane was going for. Yeah, a new Bones project tonight. Bones is dropping his 60th mixtape that sounds exactly the same. Yeah, I'm not hype on Bones dropping another project that sounds the same as every other one of his projects. I'm sorry, I'm not really excited about that. That's not really something I put on my calendar. I'm sure you guys will like the Bones album no matter what it sounds like. So, Author and Punisher. I haven't really liked any of the Author and Punisher tracks leading up to the new album, which is kind of unfortunate. You know, I really liked some elements of his last record, but I think I might try to make some time for it, but I don't know. Is there a new Ghost Poet album? I mean, that might be interesting. Sorry, I'm not like getting to the comments that people that I'm late to. I'm just have I listened to Jack Stauber? Yeah, he's pretty cool. You know, I do think he's not one of the better lo-fi pop artists out there, though. You know, I think there are much better ones. New Eminem tonight? Yeah, I hope not. I don't need that. New Disturbed? Yeah, I don't need that either. I will probably not be reviewing the new Disturbed.
Won't you give it to me? Get up, you must get down with the system.
How influential was Jai Paul leaked EP BTS? Yeah, Jai Paul wasn't very interesting at all. He hasn't come out with any music really formally outside of like a few cuts and then the leaks. So how influential could he be? Maybe he's currently influencing Jay Electronica to not come out with his fucking album. Is De La Soul 3 Feet High and Rising a 10? I don't think so, but it's a very good album though. I have heard of Makami. He's okay. Lincoln is the best They Might Be Giants record. It might be. That or Apollo 18. New Joe Rogan. I thought he passed away. Rest in peace, Joe Rogan. All right. I'm going to try to get to a few of these comments over here that I might have missed. In your opinion, is Broken Side the greatest group of all time, just the greatest electronic group of all time? Yeah, I mean, I think they're the greatest fail of all time, so there is that. Hi, I need recommendation. Favorite artists include No Name, Kendrick, Brockhampton. I don't know. Somebody please throw a recommendation based off of these artists into the chat box. No Name, Kendrick, Brockhampton. Maybe you want to check out Open Mike Eagle. He has a new album dropping. He makes really smart, forward-thinking hip-hop music that's pretty quirky and cool. But I don't really think there's much out there that sounds like Brockhampton outside of the artists who they're obviously influenced by, like Outkast, you know? Check out the new Black Peaks album, UK-based technical prog math metal. Fun stuff. Think you like it. And are you happy? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy. I'm doing pretty well. I was a little depressed a little while ago, but I'm doing better. Hey, Woo, how are you furried? Yeah, I got that one. Need some news on Earl Sweatshirt, new album soon. I have no idea, but I do hope there's a new album soon, even though I don't need a new album on my album review pile. Hey, ba ba ba, ha ba ba ba. Thoughts on The Dreaming by Kate Bush. Review this seminal masterpiece. I mean, I've already reviewed Hounds of Love, and not to say that The Dreaming by Kate Bush isn't great. It's fantastic. But if I'm going to do more classic reviews, I want to cover other artists who I haven't had the opportunity to talk about otherwise. You know what I mean? But I do agree. Masterpiece. I have not checked out 1,000 Mods. Also check out Tripes for Greek post-punk. Hopefully they are searchable in the Googles. Been listening to a lot of City Morgue. Do you have any recommendations for artists like them? Watch my review of their new album. I mentioned a ton of artists who I think do some similar shit. Can you name a bigger implosion than Lil Wayne with Rebirth? Top of the World with the card. Yeah, I mean, I actually think Speeding Bullet to Heaven is kind of an implosion. I think Angelic to the Core is kind of an implosion. I think Dead Pets by Miley Cyrus is kind of an implosion. Were they bigger though? I think Lil Wayne was probably... No, I think Miley was maybe more mainstream than Lil Wayne. I don't know. I guess it would depend on the scale, the size of their audiences at the time of their respective awful albums. Got a Polyphia recommendation over here. So that's nice. Thank you very much, Johnny John. If I get some time to check out the EP, I will. Anthony, what are your favorite trip-hop down-tempo albums? I mean, for trip-hop, I really do love myself some Portishead. Nightmares on Wax does come out with some nice down-tempo shit. Can I bring the static back? Also, R.I.P. Joe Rogan. R.I.P. to Joe Rogan forever. I think it's Mad Villainy. Clash album, my favorite Clash album. I think I answered that. It's definitely London Calling. Only in Dreams is Weezer's best song, and that's objective fact. And it is also objective that Blue is better than Pinkerton. Only in Dreams. I don't think that's their best track, but it is still like one of numerous like perfect songs on the record. Why don't you ever reply to me on Insta, you beautiful bald-headed frickhole, love you, John Hogan. I don't know, like I don't reply to 90% of the comments on Instagram, and I don't reply to like 90+% of the, I don't know, message requests that I get. So, you know, you're not alone. You're not alone. Thoughts on God Bless Tiny Tim. That's a pretty fun album, but I'm not, you know, it's fun. It's silly. It's ridiculous. Tiny Tim's whole shtick is one of a kind, but it's not a perfect record. There's some duds on there. Ha-ba-ba. Ha-ba-ba. Thank you, Based Lucy, again, for shouting out Joe Rogan. Maybe a Marshall Mathers LP one day if we do an Eminem classic review. Got that bad +1. Penelope Spheris really effed up by not making a Decline of Western Civilization 4 about the SoundCloud rap scene, huh? I'm not even sure about who the hell that is. My question, music theory. I'm sorry about the static that time. I'm sorry for anybody who had to deal with the static. Hopefully you guys got... I have not heard the new Naked Giants or Ron Gallows, but I apologize to anybody whose question might have been fucked up by the static. I appreciate... I apologize heavily for that shit. Hopefully... damn, can badly hear you. Your mic is fricked. Your mic is fricked. Damn. What is the sexiest song you listen to by yourself and get it on? We all want to know, dude. Wait, by the way, you're super staticky for some reason. Are you saying, like, what is the best song, like, I masturbate to? Like, I listen to it by myself and get it on? I don't know, like... If we are talking about masturbation here, and I'm just going to have to go off and assume that based on what you've written here. And I know that I have a hard time reading these things sometimes because I have these weird little dyslexic moments where I swap letters around, because there was what was it, that one time where somebody asked me to check out a band called, what the fuck was it, Surf Club or something, and I said Smurf Club because I'm a fucking idiot. But anyway, wait. Also, what is the sexiest song you listen to by yourself and to get it on? Okay, see, so I can't read. So verified. I cannot read. We all want to know, dude. I honestly have not had. I have not made love to music in a while. But I think the last time I did it was to the last Pissed Jeans album, which probably doesn't strike most people as romantic. The purpose of putting that album on was not romantic. It's a very rough, dirty, filthy, aggressive album, and let's just leave it at that. But again, haven't done that in a while. But before, when I was in college, or maybe a little bit later, the go-to was Beach House. The go-to was Beach House. Was all new to me. Sorry if I sound like I barged in. It's okay, Scotch Dog. Loud static coming through. Oh man, I feel so stupid. I missed all these. Please fix the static. I'm sorry, Amanda. I apologize. I'm curious AF. What's one thing I learned? About the humanity and everything. I'm sorry about all the questions that I might have totally messed up, and I'm sorry to anybody whose question got totally fucked. I answered that. Can you re-review the first Fever Ray album since I had to take it down originally? That's maybe a good idea. I'll consider it. Or I might even consider trying to do re-reviews of some of those 2009 records that were in my top 10 or top 15 or something. Got that one. Thoughts on the Midair Thief album? I'm still thinking about that one. I think it's going to end up in the next Why You Know review, honestly. It's got some cool ideas in it. Some cool experimental electronic ideas, but I feel like a lot of the core folk and songwriting elements just sound like they're ripped straight out of an old Grizzly Bear record. Okay, this is going to earlier when I wasn't getting as more and I could kind of handle a little bit better, but still. How do you explain to people that rap without much lyrical substance can still be good music? Just explain to them that it's for fun. It's not for dissecting. It's not for being smart or really profound. It's just like pop music. It's just fun, dumb pop music. Have I listened to an Oingo Boingo album before? Yes. The one with little girls on it. It was a decent record. I mean, I prefer bands like Devo, but it's still a pretty fun album. Yes. Also, it's the Kinks at the Village Green Preservation Society. Thank you. Yeah, again, it's been a long time since I listened to a Kinks album all the way through. And that one was my favorite of their records when I had a little bit of a tiny Kinks phase in college. Definitely not as long as my Tom Waits or my Bob Dylan phase, but Think Peace is a 10 and your opinion is wrong. Actual question. You never reviewed Emily Haynes' Choir of the Mind despite putting a few singles in your best tracks weekly list. Did I like it? I didn't really end up liking it all that much. I just thought as an entire record, it was kind of underwhelming, which is unfortunate. And again, another record that just ends up falling through the cracks for me because I cannot review and talk about everything. And there are just other records that either get more demanded or, that was very much an album that I was really only going to review it unless I absolutely thought it was really great or really exciting in some fashion. Because I was not getting many requests for it at all, honestly. What would I rate the first Chemical Brothers album? Albums Exit Planet Dust, Dig Your Own Hole, and Surrender. I mean, I could say Dig Your Own Hole and Surrender I would rate pretty positively, but Exit Planet Dust I don't think I've heard all the way through, honestly. So I can't even comment on that. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got much of what's past this point right now. So let me visit you guys back up here. What's going on up here? It's really unfortunate that in our day and age that the Spotify top 50 is completely made up of cliche pop and rap songs. I mean, that's just really kind of the top popular songs in the West anyway, you know. But really what that is a result of, and I mean look, the top songs in your country or the world are going to be homogenized and they're going to be cliched because gimmicks and super simple, super cliched, super basic sounds are really all that you could get everyone to agree on, to the point where a vast majority of people are liking it, to where it would rocket up at the top of the charts. You know, it's the same reason that if you poll most people, you're going to get more people who say that they like cheese pizza than they like, I don't know, some kind of obscure, you know, foreign culinary, you know, whatever dish. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just gonna leave that comment there, I guess. Excuse me, a little bit of a cough there. Why didn't I review Unknown Death 2002? Because I didn't think it was that good, so I kind of memed it. I thought it was a little laughable. Care to check out the Wow Esme album from Lully? Listen to Penrose or Goodbye Dolina. Guy makes nice music and deserves some attention. All right, I'll save that recommendation. And what's everybody saying in the chat? 4:40 a.m. in France. We'll tough it out, pussy. Are you afraid that Russ is going to send his goons after you since you keep giving him bad reviews? I mean, I've just given Russ one bad review at this point. And honestly, I think if Russ was going to attack me, he would probably say something about it first. I mean, not to say that he couldn't be like covert and slimy and sort of, you know, behind the scenes about the whole thing. But I think Russ would, you know, probably fire a warning shot or try to beef with me online first before he took it to like a personal place. You know what I mean? Like a face-to-face, sending somebody after me kind of thing. But honestly, the people who he's had like goons chase after so far have done much more than just kind of like review his album negatively. And I'm not the only person reviewing his albums negatively. You know what I mean? Like Smoke Perp, I mean, while I don't think that he deserved having a bunch of goons sent after him, he was kind of like going at Russ a little hard. And I believe, from what I understand, he had like the dude's sister or something as like his Instagram profile picture or some shit to like fucking like tease the dude. Which again, kind of uncalled for and creepy and weird. But I haven't obviously done anything like that to sort of like piss off Russ that badly. I think if I was going to make Russ angry to the point where he would like want to hurt me, I'd have to do a lot more than like maybe share a Russ meme every once in a blue moon and review one of his albums negatively. You know what I mean? And I think that review would have to be much bigger than just like literally critiquing the music that's on the album. I would have to actually like probably launch a bunch of personal attacks at him in the review. R.I.P. Joe Rogan. R.I.P. Joe Rogan. You need me to come to Pitt. Feed your 7 children. I will. Thank you guys for supporting the channel so that I can feed my 7 children always. Do I like Soft Fangs? I'm not sure. Rotting Christ review? I'm not sure. Have you guys heard of Candace? Have you guys heard of Candace? Let me start looking in the chat now. Have you guys heard of Candace? Candace? Anybody heard of Candace? It's Candace. Anybody heard of this? Candace? No, Candace? No? Candace, dick fit in your mouth? Whoa! Whoa! Holy fucking shit! You got owned, bro. You got fucking owned. You got fucking pwned. You got pwned right there. Shit. I can't believe you guys fucking fell for that shit. Damn. Led Zeppelin worst to best, I'm not sure. Recommendation, Sleep Token. Think my super chats got lost for some reason. I apologize for that. I didn't see him going back through them, but Sleep Token, I will say that recommendation. Shut up, please. I will shut up in a second, as I will be ending this live stream in about a minute. And I asked for some feminine music recommendations last stream, but forgot most of them. Could you either recommend some more feminine music or archive your last stream? Thanks, love you. God, what did I? Email me, Anthony at theneedledrop.com, subject matter, feminine music, and I will send you a link to the last stream. Is it fair to say Ghost Town is one of the best songs Kanye has ever made? I don't know. Considering all the material on... I don't know if it's fair to say one of the best. It's definitely one of the best songs he's made this decade. I'll leave it at that. All right, guys. Kill Bill, Ramona thoughts, I don't know. Would you do a show? I will do a show eventually in CT. Probably after the tour that I have coming up next year. And I'm going to leave it at that, everybody. I'm going to leave it at that. Critical on my podcast? I don't know. I don't really have an interview podcast anymore, but maybe one day. But yeah, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best, best, best. And I will just catch you guys in the next stream. Knife Fights, Time Mirage, the side project of... Yes, I did hear about that, but I didn't really care for it all that much, honestly. There were a few interesting tracks on it, though. But I love you guys. Thank you very much for stopping in. Thank you very much for having a fun time. And thank you very much for telling me my mic was all fucked up. Do appreciate that, even though I'm a fucking knucklehead. And new High on Fire review tomorrow. All right. Joyce Manor, I think, is going to end up in the next Why You Know review. And I'm going to leave it at that. All right. Kiss, kiss. Kiss, kiss. Reviews and videos tomorrow. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.